Hey YouTube, it's Wes Spencer. Hope you guys are doing great today. I am here in Campbellsville, Kentucky, of all places, right after Christmas, visiting some family and in the awesome coffee shop of Hardin Coffee, easily one of the best coffee shops in all of Kentucky. I mean, they actually roast everything in-house. Hey, in today's video, we're going to jump into a crypto that's brand new and making scenes, and a whole bunch of my friends and some of you guys on this channel have asked me to cover it. And I don't always take requests, but when I have enough friends to jump into something, they're like, yo, can you cover this? What do you think about it? And sometimes I think it's important enough, I will absolutely do that. In today's video, we're going to cover the Radio Shack crypto. Yes, we're covering it. I'm going to tell you what I think about it. It's not good. I'm going to tell you why it's not good. Now, you can, of course, make your own financial decisions. I'm not going to stop you from that. You always need to do that. But in today's video, I'm going to tell you why this one is a huge concern for me, a big red flag, actually lots of small red flags is probably the way to say it, and why it's not going to be the crypto for me. All of this and a whole bunch more coming right up. Thank you so much for joining. Wes Spencer here. Really glad you joined the channel today. We're gonna have some fun talking about the Radio Shack DeFi crypto and Radio Shack itself. I thought it was a company that was long gone. See, I'm a guy from the 80s and 90s, and I remember Radio Shack. I remember going into their store and buying electronics. This was before the days of awesome people like Mark Rober. You just kind of got to figure it out yourself and buy books and learn electronics in the old school way. And all of a sudden they've made a resurgence, or have they? So we're going to cover this today. If we haven't met before, Wes Spencer, I love covering crypto, startups, financial independence, all of that. I'm really glad you're here. Hit like, hit subscribe. They really do go a long way from this channel, and share with anybody that you want to, that really wants to get an input and look at what the heck Radio Shack is doing. So there's a whole lot to talk about, and we certainly don't have time to cover everything, but we're going to start here just with Radio Shack's website. So one of the things you should know is Radio Shack is, I mean, they've completely rebranded their website. So here it is, radioshack.com. There is like literally nothing on here that has anything to do with electronics. Like, I remember going to their old store and you could buy, like I said, like electronics out of bins, going up to their shelves and picking out capacitors and resistors and wiring and soldering and all this kind of stuff. That's gone from this website. My first thought was like, well, where'd it go? Secondly, I thought, oh, it looks like Radio Shack is just adding DeFi to what they're doing. I remember that they went out of business. So I'm kind of like, maybe this is their resurgence, right? And if there's one truth, it's that dead companies have nothing to lose because they're dead, right? And that's definitely the case with Radio Shack. But as I began to dive in deeper, I saw a whole bunch of red flags. And I want to show some of them to you, less because I'm hating on what Radio Shack is doing, and more because I want you to have some education around where the red flags are and the things that you need to be watching out for as you jump into all of this. So a few things first. I mean, you can pop your email in here, and I actually did that so I can stay in touch with what they're doing just because I'm curious about this. But the first thing I did is you scroll down, like, okay, it's DeFi. It looks like they got some kind of app that's been mocked up. And my first red flag was this. I mean, look at this right here. Radio Shack is a 100-year-old brand. That's true. Embedded into the global consciousness. What? What? It, like, I can go down the street and talk to anyone that's like 30 years and younger and be like, what's Radio Shack to you? And they're going to be like, radio what? Never heard of it. Like, no idea what it is. Global consciousness, maybe of like boomers and up, sure. Maybe a few Gen Xers, okay, probably. But like the whole global consciousness embedded into the global consciousness, I mean, hyperbole much, guys? Come on, that's that was my first red flag, right? I'm gonna scroll down. And they talk about this generational gap between the average crypto buyer and the average business decision maker. They're not wrong on all that. There's certainly some gaps that are there. And I see this in my channel all the time. It's you look at the younger skews of generations that typically get into crypto, and yeah, it is younger for sure. But I wouldn't say that it's such a significant barrier that like it doesn't command our attention, right? I mean, you're seeing major invested like in institutional corporations and big banks getting into crypto at this point. So come on, let's be fair here with everything. So they talk about how Radio Shack is going to be the one to make the bridge between all of this, and it is symbiosis with Atlas USB. And I'm like, well, what is Atlas USB? Another red flag is like this household name of Radio Shack combining with this well-known Atlas USV, and I'm like, I don't get it. And then I see slippage, right? And my other huge red flag that comes in on this is, okay, if I see slippage and I think Uniswap, decentralized exchanges, which you guys know I love them, right? It's a great way for you to trade cryptos that aren't going to get onto like, federated, large, protected, centralized exchanges like Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, Binance, the rest, right? And so I think slippage, I'm like, well, wait, so Radio Shack is going in with like a decentralized exchange and their market play here is minimizing slippage. Like, okay, this is another big red flag. I thought this was like a legitimate crypto, not some kind of burn token. So that certainly alarmed me, right? Here's more on Atlas USV, which I'm going to get to this in a minute. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I really need to read the docs to kind of understand what the heck is going on here. And so as I do that, I want to show you some things that really stick out to me. So you could click read the docs, actually just have it open in this other tab. And here it goes. It gets into like more about all this. And I certainly don't have time to get into everything. I'm not going to hate on every piece of it, but there's a couple things that I want to bring out with all this. So they talk about crossing the chasm, right? Okay, whatever that happens to mean. And I think it goes back to, the old people don't get it. The boomers don't get crypto and we're going to bring it to them. I guess it's one of those kind of things. Deferring to authority with a Harvard University professor. I don't care about any of that. But look there's a couple things that happen. So this one right here, this one really gets me. Oh man, this is so good. So we mean this is no disparagement to the early blockchain adopters as they've pushed crypto close to a $3 trillion market cap. Not an easy feat, you think? Yeah, like of course, a $3 trillion market cap is, that's insane. But then here's where I don't understand their marketing language. Yet this is a blip on the radar of a globe with 250 trillion estimated net worth. Timeout. So you think 3 trillion out of 250 trillion that crypto is worth when I don't even know what they mean by estimated net worth of what? Of the world? I don't get it. But regardless, 3 out of 250 is no small number. Like a blip on radar? It seems a little pretentious that they're saying, oh, this is so small. $3 trillion, and we're going to fix this, right? So you can see there's a lot of marketing in all of this. In fact, there's far more marketing fluff than there is substance, and that should always be a huge red flag. So I start getting into this, and I'm like, well, what's going on here, right? And why is Radio Shack, focused on the early majority, the first to market with a 100-year-old brand name that's recognized in virtually all 190 plus countries in the world? Again, guys, sure, the boomers know you, but literally nobody else. Literally nobody else. And they talk about, we once had over 8,000 stores, but then we shut down, of course, because we went freaking broke because no one bought electronic parts anymore. And we couldn't keep pace with the consumerism of America, right? So at least they own some of that. But they go down and it gets more and more hyperbole as we go through all of this. And so I started to really have some concerns around all of this. Radio Shack is perfect. We're the bridge, right? And so what you can do is you can go through all of this and you can read out, they've got all of this linked through, what their secret sauce is that they're combining with Atlas USV, which I'll get into that in just a second. They get into how the whole thing works. It's just regular liquidity pool providing, nothing really special here. The difference is that I think the way the liquidity pool is, the way it works is the treasury owns the liquidity pool rather than users funding it, I think is the big differentiator here with all of this. And so they go into DEX 1.0s, like the Uniswaps, the Pancake Swaps, the 1inches of the world, and how they're going to compete with those, that they have high slippage because of high volume, low liquidity. And a lot of this makes sense to me as they get through how they're trying to address those challenges. I think even at one point here, they talk about, here it is. They talk about even if you want to make a trade from, for example, this Frax that's down here all the way over to Matic. And they show where you have a lot of thick lines right here. This is where there's a lot of liquidity between the two pairs. And so to go from Frax to Matic is impossible. But if you want to do it, then you'd have to go, for example, I'm not saying this is the only way it works. They're just showing this as an example. You go from Frax to USDT, then from USDT to USDC, and then from there to Wrapped ETH and there to Matic, right? And you have to do a whole bunch of swaps to get to that point in time. And so they're trying to fix all of this with what they call their centralized approach, their starfish approach, right? And so they're going to be the centralized token that funds all of these liquidity pools so that swap fees are really small. Okay, that makes sense, but I don't think that's anything that decentralized version 1.0 exchanges can't do as well. They can do all the same thing. It just comes down to, in my opinion, who's going to provide those swaps. And the answer would be Well, the market is going to provide the liquidity based upon how much growth there is in it, how much these people that are funding that market want to make in transaction fees. This is normal stuff, right? So I'm going to skip through all the rest of this, other than to say I jump into like Radio Shack DeFi and I'm like, okay, there's not really anything that's all that innovative here. In fact, I see more marketing red flags than anything. So I start getting into this a little bit more, and I want to know who is the owner of Radio Shack. So a quick Google search tells me Ty Lopez is the CEO. Now, Ty Lopez is absolutely one of the most polarizing figures in all of crypto. Actually, not even crypto, just in online media, right? The guy is a hype machine. And a lot of people online will say he's a straight up scam artist, con artist, fraud. Look, I'm not going to go there. I don't know him personally. I do think he probably provide some value. But he's like a lot of these others. You've seen them if you watch YouTube videos. In fact, you might even see them come up on my channel, which I wish I could get rid of, but I can't. You know, these like 20-something dudes that are usually pretty cut and fit, and they're like posing in front of their Lambo, like, hey, yo, you know, I'm going to show you how to make all this money online with like, you know, Amazon referrals or, you know, how to make money without working, all this kind of stuff. Now, look, let me say this. And I'm not trying to get braggadocious here, but anybody that has those kind of videos or they're like trying to entice you into like getting rich without working hard have no idea what they're talking about. In fact, they're the ones that are actually working hard. Like you may not think it, but they're the ones that are doing the hustle to get you there. They're providing all the videos, all the training, all the marketplace stuff, and then they're doing all the SEO work to get you to buy. The truth is, they're working as hard as anyone else that's out there, 80 hours, 90 hours a week, to entice you into doing something that they're not doing. And that's a huge red flag. See, I don't talk about this a ton on the channel. I probably should talk about it more. I'm an entrepreneur. I've created and bought and sold companies. I'm an investor. The last company that I built and sold, allegedly, if you look online, Perch Security, we sold it for $80 million. So I know what it takes to do the things that these guys are talking about doing. But I'll tell you this, it comes with really, really hard work, a lot of risk and a lot of execution. It doesn't just happen with no work. You don't pay for a $1,500 class and get all this just work. It doesn't happen that way, right? So anyone that's promising low work and high reward is certainly just, they've got something to sell you for sure. And they're the ones that are actually operating opposite from you. And Ty is this way, right? So you can read more about him. You know, he's more, this is right. He's more of a motivational speaker than anything else. In fact, this website, you can't quite see it, but it's Wikipedia. This is not even Wikipedia. He doesn't even have a Wikipedia article on himself. There's probably a lot of reasons for that. So this is not even a real Wikipedia article. His net worth is assumed to be 60 million. He brags about that a lot online. Like that's a big deal to him. It seems like from my perspective, he's pretty concerned with how much money he has, I guess, because that really goes into line of like his view of his authenticity and authority in the market. And so, I mean, obviously he's worth probably tens of millions. 60 million in like cash liquidity, no chance. There's just no chance. What he's doing is he's showing his entire portfolio of perceived value of all these brands that he owns, and he's using that to extrapolate, you know, a net worth of 60 million. He says it's probably even higher than that. I think I saw some articles about that recently. So there's a lot of controversies around him. If you scroll down, and I'm not going to go through all these because look, it's not my style to like badmouth a bunch of people, other than to say there's a whole bunch of these kind of controversies. Like even this Here My Garage video where he talks about like all the stuff that he has, and in truth, he doesn't. And we actually know this is the case. Like he's not alone in this. There's a whole bunch of people that are really well known for acting like much more wealthy than they are, projecting an image. And anytime you see people projecting that image, you should always be very, very concerned. And so he's not alone in this, right? This is from Hot Cars, and you can see examples of this. Even the mighty Conor McGregor, which we know is worth tons and tons of money. This Bentley that he was posing on top. Actually, this is not a Bentley, right? This is a Rolls Royce, right? I should learn my cars, Wes. This is a Rolls Royce he's posing on top of. He's literally standing on top of it. And look at this right here. He doesn't own it. He actually got in trouble. It says he wanted everyone to think he owned this Rolls Royce Wraith. He didn't. He was renting it. And when the rental car company saw that he was doing this with social media, they actually took legal action against him, right? I'm sure he's like, well, fight me in the ring. But this happens, right? Here's 50 Cent doing the same thing with a Ferrari that he does not own, Justin Bieber, and on. And I'm not saying every single one of these are projecting that they actually own these cars. I'm just saying it's really, really easy for any of us to go out and to rent a car, pop it up on YouTube, show it behind me, and act like I'm super wealthy and I got it made. Same with mansions. Like people will literally rent a mansion on Airbnb or whatever it is for the day, a whole bunch of money, maybe 10, 20, $30,000, but it's a drip in the bucket compared to what the returns they're going to make from all of that, right? So we know this happens really, really, really often. And it looks like Ty has allegedly been involved in some of that as well. That's not for me to say, but I'm just warning you, right? So here's another, this is from NJ.com, NewJersey.com, talking about another different YouTuber that did the same kind of thing. So my point is this, it's really common that YouTubers project and that they kind of give you this idea of like who they are and all this stuff that they're doing. And in reality, they're not doing so much. So let's get back to Radio Shack for a minute. So here's Radio Shack. They used to be an empire of a company. I mean, they were literally $1 billion company. And all of it was really on a house of cards because it was all structured where they had over 500 stores around the United States and in other countries. I think Latin America, Caribbean, you see this here, even parts of North Africa and Asia, they show here on the wiki. And, they were doing really well, but it was a house of cards because it was all stood up on the value of consumer electronics, especially not being consumerized the way that they were, and all held up on a storefront delivery mechanism model, which, as we know, Amazon, Walmart, and others absolutely crushed, just took the knees out from under them. So they went from being a multi-billion-dollar company to literally bankrupt. And what happened, you can even see this right here, November 2020, Retail E-commerce Ventures, this is Tai Lopez's company, they bought Radio Shack. And what happens is they didn't buy all the revenue. They didn't buy all the stores. All that had already been liquidated away. They literally bought Radio Shack for, they say right here, it shows, I think it was like $11 million is what it was purchased for. They said the value of the company was $26 million. Isn't that insane? Like Radio Shack went from being a $1 billion company to overnight, it seems like, 26 million. And then Ty and his company bought it, allegedly, for $11 million. They bought it for pennies on the dollar. Now, why did they do that? They bought it for the name. They bought it for the ability to use that and project, right? They're saying, well, we use our online brands. Pier 1 is another example. Let me show you Pier 1. So here's Pier 1, same thing. They went completely bankrupt. Their valuation tanked. All of their stores went away because, again, a very heavy brick and model. Wayfair, Amazon, others, again, absolutely axed Pier 1. They did. And so that really, that hurts for them, right? Like for sure that hurts. And then you see right here, Tai Lopez, REV, they bought them, again, probably for pennies on the dollar. And they're doing what they're doing with their other stores. They're like, we're going to turn them into online companies with very little hardware presence. So it's very cheap for us to run. Our margins are lower, profits go higher, all this kind of stuff. Now, whether they can do that or not, beyond the scope of this article. On one hand, I think it's smart for people like Tai Lopez to kind of do that, right? It's smart because they can pick these brands and resurrect them and do well with them, then I think they have a lot to gain, especially when you're buying it for millions of dollars for a previous like $1 billion, $2 billion valued company that was an empire that had like commercials on TV and all this kind of stuff. But a lot of it is projection. Let's be honest. And I think with Radio Shack and what they're doing with this DeFi platform is projection. Maybe the whole thing will work out. Is the whole thing a scam? Probably not, in the sense that like it's not a rug pull like what you happen with the Squid Games token and others. I don't think that's going to happen. Ty has way too much notoriety to be somebody that's going to be an overt rug pull. What they're going to do, though, is wrap as much hype in the hype marketing and hype engine that he is an expert at to drive Radio Shack's crypto price to the moon. He has seen what's happened with Metaverse, with all of these cryptos that have absolutely blown up, that have turned billionaires overnight for people. And he wants in on that game. And he's thinking what anyone in his shoes would think. Well, I'm really good at marketing. I'm really good at brand awareness. I'm really good at hustle. So why don't I combine all these things I've done successfully with other things I've done and just take that to the next level with crypto and create my own DeFi token? And that's just what he's doing. And that's why I'm not buying. That's why for me, I'm not touching this thing, because from my perspective, I don't think there's any value in this. Now it could blow up and many people might jump onto this channel and be like, ha ha, Wes, I told you this thing blew up. I'm not saying it won't blow up. I'm saying there's way too much hype and not enough substance. And the background of Ty himself and his company just makes me leery of it. And it's not for me. But as always, my friends, what do I always tell you on this channel? Never listen to YouTubers like Ty or Wes Spencer. If you listen to us, you will go broke. Make your own financial decisions. Use your own wisdom in all of this. Consult your financial advisors, not me, because I'm not one. And that will handle things for you much, much better. All right, guys, I hope this video was helpful for you. Hope it was a lot of fun. Hope you learned something. Leave me your comments down below what you think about Radio Shack. I'd love to know, and their crypto token. Hit like, hit subscribe, share this with a friend. All that will go a whole long way. Thank you guys so very much.